height.
And is it horizontal or is it vertical?
Vertical.
So here's our two parallel bases, and then we have our vertical height that does what? Intersects with the two bases that are parallel. So we have the two triangles are similar because the bases are parallel to each other, and the height of the triangles intersects the bases, forming what? Right angles. And since they're both right angles, what do we call those right angles? In similar figures, what are they called? Paris?
Corresponding angles.
Corresponding angles. Awesome. So, since both angles are 90 degrees, I know that they are corresponding angles. It's okay if you're behind, don't worry, I'm going to leave this up and you'll get time to catch up. Right now we're just formulating our thoughts to get started. Braden, do you have this written down, buddy?
So this is the answer?
We are working on your answer. This is forming your short constructed response, Josh. We're putting it together. We're proving that we know they're similar triangles.
And we're gonna like alone on
Add on. And I'll tell you what you got to add on in a minute, okay? So now I'm going to move the paper. Don't panic. We'll come back to it. We're going to go back to the picture. So now we know this is a right triangle angle and this is a right angle in our two right triangles. But is one angle being corresponding the same enough to prove that they're similar triangles?
No.
No. So now I'm going to ask you, Elias said this was our hypotenuse, this was our height. This angle is part of the small triangle, right?
Yes.
Is it also part of the large triangle?
Yes.
Is this angle an angle for both triangles?
Yes.
Yes. So if the same angle is in the same spot in both triangles, what do we know has to be true about this angle for both? Charlotte?
It's similar.
Not only similar, but it's the same. So are those two corresponding angles identical?
Yes.
Yes. So now we can add to our proof. What do we also know? Charlotte?
That one of the angles are exactly the same.
Because it is the same.
Same part where the angle is. Same position.
Same position, same angle, right? So we also know, and I'm going to name it stake 3 angle because it's at stake 3. So I'm going to say we also know stake 3 angle is a corresponding angle because it is in the same position and the same measure in both triangles. Okay, now put your pencil down for 30 seconds. I know you're not done writing, but let's get to the next piece. So far we have a lot of proof, right? But have we proved it all?
No.
No. If two of the angles in a triangle are the same, what do we know has to be true about the third one? Caroline, what has to be true about the third one? So if I'm looking at my picture again, and I know that this angle and this angle are the same, what has to be true about these two angles? Bless you. And how do you know they're the same? They're in the same position, that's part of it, that's true. Rachel?
Corresponding sides?
They're next to corresponding sides, that's true too. Paris?
Corresponding angles.
They're corresponding angles, that's true. Shem?
Because if you add up all the angle numbers, it has to equal 100%.
Yeah, so we know that in order for a triangle to be a triangle, the three angles have to total 180 degrees. So if two of them are the same, then what has to be true about the third to get to 180? Cassie? They have to be the same too to get to 180. Josh.
I have a question about something. If the smaller triangle has to equal, does the smaller triangle have to equal 180, or does the entire triangle have to equal 180?
Who can answer that? Terriana. He wants to know, does the smaller triangle's degrees have to be 180, or does the larger triangle's degrees have to be 180? Why? Because why?
But wouldn't that mean?
Hold on, listen to her response.
A triangle with 12 degrees is 180 degrees, so it has to be.
So does the size change the degrees of the angles?
No.
Does it, right? If it's a triangle, what has to be true about all the degrees of the triangle's angles? They have to equal 180, whether it's this big one or it's this small one.
But doesn't that mean that if you separate the triangles and you have if you have 180 in one of the little triangles and you have 180 in the other triangle, don't you have to put the two together, and wouldn't that mean that they're both 180?
No, you're not making sense.
Yes, they both separately are 180, but when you stick them in together, this is one triangle inside of a second triangle. So there's still two separate triangles that when put together look like one large
So it's
triangle.
360 altogether with the two triangles.
So look at it this way, Josh.
Okay, so that's what it is. That's what I was thinking. Is it actually 360 altogether?
Yes, with both triangles.
No.
Because you don't add them together.
Hold on, hold
So
on.
I'm just saying, if you were to add them, then that would equal 360.
But
Is
you
what
don't.
you're saying. I know that you don't have. I'm just wondering.
Okay, so here's the thing. Now, Josh, you have a statement. You're saying you wonder if you put them together if it makes 360. Now, out of respect, you have to now listen to what someone else has to say in response to. And you can't start talking while they're talking. You got to listen to the whole explanation. Sophia, what do you think in response?
No,
Why? No, why is it not 360?
because number one, you don't add up triangles, angles, like two triangles, angles. And then number two, because if it's 180 in one triangle, 180 in the other triangle, it's just 180.
Okay. But why, when I put the two together, is it still only 180 degrees together?
Because the angles are the same no matter what triangle you go to. Like if they're similar triangles, like that angle right there, the little square, the right one, that's 90 degrees. And in the big one, it's 90 degrees too. So it's not, no, I don't.
Okay.
Well, see, I know what I'm saying in my brain, but I can't explain it.
It makes sense. I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
Elia, what do you think?
I don't like to add them because they're two separate triangles. They're not the same, like they're not like the same triangles together. They're two separate ones. So like you wouldn't add them.
Okay. Two different triangles, so you're not going to add them. Paris?
Because you add the angle from the top, the big triangle, and all of those three angles are going to equal 180. So the little triangle is not included because it's just like a huge big triangle.
Okay, so what she just said is, here's your little triangle, and it's not really added to a separate triangle. Because if I pull this separate triangle out, do I have a triangle anymore? No. So by putting the second triangle in, we create one large triangle together. So it's like putting a puzzle together. You're putting two pieces, one little triangle with another piece that's not a triangle together, and it forms one large triangle. So now they're not two separate shapes, they are one shape, like a puzzle put together.
But all I'm wondering is, this is just like one of my last questions. Can it equal 360? Is that what?
Wait,
I know.
Oh, hold on.
I know you don't add them.
Make
I'm just
another one
saying,
by
if
the
you were to
side.
add them,
You
if
don't
in a
know.
problem you want us to add the angles, I'm not fucking. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let him finish.
If you were to add the angles, doesn't that mean that it would equal 360? I'm not saying that you would. I'm just asking if it was a possibility.
It is a possibility. Here's how it's a possibility. If I took my triangle 1 and I took my triangle 2, and instead of laying them together, putting them together as one shape, I laid them next to each other to form a new shape.
Okay.
Now, are these triangles anymore?
No.
When I lay them this way together, what have I just formed? Rachel, a rectangle. What are the degrees of a rectangle in comparison to a triangle? Presley.
360.
It's 360. So now if I take my 180 here plus my 180 here together, when they form a rectangle, I end up with 360 degrees.
Oh, so I'm right.
So it is possible in this situation. In this situation, is that the same scenario?
That's the only thing I wanted to know is if it all together, if you were to add them, even if it wasn't a different shape, it is 360.
It is possible.
Okay.
So
Yes,
does
my
it
question.
matter? Are both people right?
Yes.
Yes. There's a possibility for 360 and there's a possibility for 180, depending on how the shapes are put together.
It just depends on the shape.
Correct. Alejandro.
So what you're trying to say that it's basically just, you're not counting the small triangle, it's just one triangle and that's just a triangle inside of it.
Exactly. This one is sitting inside of one that already exists. Exactly. They're overlaid. They're on top of each other.